let's talk about this hit list. Okay. That is what first got my attention to say that the things that are happening in Loudoun County are worse than other places, right? So all over the country, we've seen the critical race applied practice, right? Because they're not exactly getting up there and saying, here's the definition of critical race theory, and this is what it means. They're actually doing the practice of critical race theory, what it teaches in their day-to-day education of the children. So that's one very important point and distinction to make. Loudoun County is worse, partially because of this hit list. Let's back up. There is a Facebook group designed. What is its mission? What is its goal? How did you discover it? And then let's talk about who is on it. And then let's talk about what they've been doing. Because, guys, this part is the mind-blowing part to me, in addition to all the crazy.
So I don't know how it got discovered. It was a Friday afternoon. I'm sitting on my computer and somebody texts this over to me, and it was, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't know I was on it. I looked at it. I saw some screenshots. I saw the one where it talked about infiltrating, exposing, hacking people's websites, and my radar went right up at that point. I said, well, that's a solicitation of a crime right there.
Okay, hold on. And we're talking as if people already know what we're talking about. They don't. There is a Facebook group made up of teachers, administrators, political officials, elected officials, appointed officials who have put together a list of parents who have been critical of critical race theory and its applied practice. And they've made a list of the bad people. And then they have directly targeted these people through various measures, such as spamming their websites, hacking their website. Tell me what these measures have been.
So what they said in the call to action was, we need to infiltrate their groups. We need to publicly expose them. We need to hack their websites and redirect people to pro-critical race theory websites. And we need to raise money for this.
That is incredible. There are public officials. There are teachers and administrators. There are parents getting together and saying, we need to hack these people's websites. We need to disrupt their information flow. We need to basically damage them, shame them, and humiliate them in order to get them to fall in line with our desires. Is that right?
That sums it up.
And how did that make you feel as a parent in Loudoun County when you realized that your teachers, administrators, and political officials are putting together a hit list of opponents and urging their membership to take action against you?
I think what it made me feel was in that first sort of tranche of activity where I wrote that article for the Federalist. That's exactly why I was trying to point that out, because this is what the result is going to be. When you start pushing this stuff in schools, you're going to start seeing it bleed out through kids trying to cancel each other. And now you've got parents trying to cancel each other because somebody disagrees with them.
And they're not only going after parents. Are they harassing the children of these parents as well?
That I don't know, but I do know that when you put my name on a list, you're not just putting my name on a list. Right. You're putting my two kids' names on the list, especially when you've got teachers in there, administrators. And, are they going to look at those kids of the people that were listed and say, that kid's a problem. His parents are a problem. We got to keep an eye on those kids.
You may know Christopher Rufo. He and I had coffee a few months ago when we were talking about his experience living on the West Coast in the big city, and he ran for a local political office back a few years ago. And when the same type of people we're talking about here found out about Chris and they found out about his views on things, this was before he had blown up as a Twitter personality or Twitter activist. They not only harassed him at his work, but they found out where his kids played, on what playgrounds, and they went and they harassed his children directly on the playground. Now, To me, that's some serious, serious, serious fighting words. Like you stepping to my kids and bringing my kids physically into this. Talking about them is one thing, but physically bringing my kids into it, that is really crossing the line. Did you sense amongst your parent community and your neighbors and whomever, like was there a visceral reaction to knowing that there was this hit list on parents, or did some people be like, "Oh, well, it's just part of the process," or how did the people around you react?
It was pretty visceral. Obviously that made news right off the bat, and I think there was kind of chaos. Because a lot of the people that were put on that list weren't even there for speaking out against critical race theory. A lot of the people, I think most of the people, had been going to school board members to try and get schools reopened.
Mm.
And so it became much bigger than just this one sliver of policy. It became, oh, if you go and speak at a school board meeting and you take a position opposite from the schools, you're now on this list. And that really sort of galvanized people to get together and try and figure something out.
I mean, putting people on lists is a common theme of this regime. We've just had Joe Biden and the press secretary telling us that they're literally putting people on lists. And then at the same time, they're telling us that they've expanded the powers of the Capitol Police, who are unfoyable, by the way, putting billions of dollars in their pockets, the Capitol Police, and opening offices all across the country to track down people who they put on this list. I mean, if you say it out loud like that, it sounds like you're making it up. It sounds fake. It sounds like it came from a different era, a different country, a different planet. It's a bad movie. But it's not. This is real life. Your name as a parent is on a list of people who want to destroy you because you're standing in the way of them advancing their communist, Marxist, racist, misogynistic, whatever philosophy that has no end goal in sight but to take power and destroy people along the way. Was there an outrage? Did people push you to the forefront? Did you step up on your own? Are you on the forefront? Who else is out there? Like, how are people responding on the ground? Part of what I want people to take away from this conversation is to understand exactly what's happening from parents on the ground in the middle of the shit, but then also to be inspired, motivated, and hopefully a little bit of education along the way here as we get to it about what to do and how they can fight back. Like, are people pushing you?
Yeah. So
are there
I
other
think
people around? What's going on there?
I think what motivated me at first was, the idea that, hey, I can go out and push back on this, right? I work in politics. I'm not going to get canceled. But there are a lot of people on that list that, they can't go out and speak out. So my first instinct was go get in front of it. Like, embrace it, get on offense. Don't play defense, get on offense. A reporter had called me and told me I was on the list. And, once that story broke, it's expose this because this could be happening in other people's neighborhoods too.
Yeah.
What we did was we really took a bunch of parents, I'd say maybe 8 parents, and we went out and we sat on someone's back deck maybe the next week or maybe in a week and a half after and said, all right, well, this is ridiculous. I mean, as bad as it is that you have, members of your community targeting their own neighbors, what's even worse is that you have elected officials, one of which really started the fire, and the other 5 did nothing. They did absolutely nothing. They didn't put out a statement. They didn't apologize. They didn't reach out to their constituents and say, hey, listen, I'm sorry about this. This is wrong. They didn't put a statement in that group saying, everybody, you guys need to shut this down. And so I think that is where the sort of the grassroots operation came into being because, nobody really wants to spend time getting in neighborhood fights. But when you've got the government involved, I think that's a different story. And so we started a PAC. We looked at the law. We looked at the circumstances, and we said, well, we're going to recall these 6 school board members that were in there.
Okay. So
and we've been at it since.
The recall of the 6 school board members, that is based on the CRT stuff. That's based on them being dumbasses when it comes to reopening schools and mask mandates and whatever else, or is it all of the above or what?
Actually, you could say the genesis of the frustration with the school board is on those issues. But for the actual removal effort, which has to go to court, The argument is there were 6 school board members in a private Facebook group. That's a quorum. That means you have to follow Virginia open meetings law. And it was also a forum that was limited based on your viewpoint, which means that's a violation of the First Amendment. And then there's a whole host of code of conduct issues that we can throw in there as well. Yeah. So we have a very targeted legal argument as to why the very core functions of this school board have been compromised by their actions. And now they have no trust in the community.
Do they have a fiduciary responsibility, the board members?
Well, absolutely. I mean, they represent us.
Right.
You know, this is a representative democracy. This is not an oligarchy. This is not a dictatorship. They represent us. And you look through their code of conduct, and it's all there, and they violated it 6 ways to Sunday.
Right. And even so, fiduciary responsibility explicitly has higher standards of care than most contractual relationships, et cetera. Isn't that right? You're a lawyer. Can you explain a little bit of that to the audience, please?
Yeah. So, it's, if you look and talking about negligence, everybody has a duty to act reasonably. But if, say, you're someone's financial advisor, you have to go beyond acting reasonably. You have a special position of trust that you have to view your relationship with. And if you violate that trust, then you've breached your fiduciary duty, and you can be held legally accountable to that.
Yeah. Fascinating. I wonder if the fiduciary breach is a vector for this stuff across the country, actually, especially if, all of them getting together and acting in a concerted effort against the parents that they're supposed to represent. That is, what kind of hubris and arrogance. That's the part about all this that it rubs me so hard, is the fact that people are acting with such, they just think that they're untouchable, or that they can do whatever they want, or that the rules don't apply to them, or whatever, or that they're going to just be in control of the gulag at the end of the day. So it doesn't even matter what they do or how to comply or anything like that. Man, it is maddening. All right. Tell me about the PAC. Or should we talk about the PAC first, or should we talk about the actual school board meetings where people are singing the national anthem and protesting and getting arrested and whatever else? Like, you tell me which order to talk about.
Let's talk about the school board meetings, because I think it's fascinating. It's a really interesting story how these things develop. We've really been able to kind of plan and talk about different issues and do it in a way that's going to garner attention. And we planned that going into school board meetings. So the first one that I think really was well planned was when the moms were exposing some of the books that were being read in 9th grade, and they had the poster boards with the language on it, and they were reading it, and that was great, and it got a lot of coverage. But what also got a lot of coverage was a woman named Chantel Cooper, who got up there. Most people didn't know who she was at that point in time. And she's a Black mom of biracial children, and she gave an amazing speech, and it went completely viral, right? And it's like, wow, well, now we all know Chantel Cooper, and she's part of the team. And then, the next week we had a press conference, and we're, kind of exposing some of the misrepresentations from what we've seen from the school board and the superintendent. And you've got Tanner Cross goes in to speak at the school board meeting. And, some people heard him speak, some people didn't really make a ton of, news at that time until 2 days later when he goes on administrative leave. And it opens up a whole new coalition of people that are looking at this school board and saying, what are you doing? And then then after that, they opened it up so that people could actually sit in the school board meetings. And you had G. Van Fleet from China, who lived through the Cultural Revolution, gave another what became a viral speech explaining how this is very much like Mao's revolution. And then finally, the last school board meeting, what did they do? Right? They turned the cameras around so that the speakers wouldn't get any camera time, because they're like, we don't need another viral moment at the Loudoun County School Board. And instead, they ended up getting a trending moment and a national story when they decided to shut down public comment because of applause, which, I say I've looked at the case law, and applause is a form of expression, and it is a First Amendment right as long as it is not, fully disruptive. And I don't think it was fully disruptive at all.